An update on my golem build. Right now I'm going for maximum golems using chaos golems, which according to Path of Exile or Path of Building is the highest damage for at least how I'm building this particular character. I've got 12 chaos golems and I've got 2 stone golems. I could actually get a couple more if I used clay shapers, for example, but overall I think this is probably a slightly better way to go. I think at one point it had up to 18 golems, and it doesn't really feel like it makes much of a difference. So it seems like a pretty good number of golems, and damage is okay-ish. I'll show you what it looks like in a map here, but just to review the character. Using the Dark Monarch helmet here, which doubles the number of golems you can have at the cost of not being able to have any other type of minion. So you give up a lot for using this helm. Get twice as many golems. Is it really worth it? It's hard to say. Without this helm, you could have specters, you could have an animated guardian. Could do a lot of different things to enhance the build with half as many golems. Probably overall better to not use this helmet, but I wanted to give it a try and see what it would look like. And the same reason I'm using the primordial chain here, which gives me some extra golems. So it's +3, and with doubling it's +6, so that's really quite a lot. The movement speed is also huge to have it on here. So pretty good option if you want to go for maximum golems like this. I'm building physical damage on my chaos golem. And then I'm using the triad grips with 4 blue sockets to convert to lightning. And I'm doing that because my mercenary is using Doriani's prototype, which you can basically transfer its lightning resistance onto enemies, and so have 2 mirrored rings with -2 lightning resistance. Now, not everyone, most people, a lot of people are running this build or this mercenary this way, so these rings are pretty expensive. I didn't really want to invest a ton into it, so I bought the rings that were reasonably affordable. I think at the time these were a divine a piece. And also using the immortal flesh, which gives me some additional, less resistances. So in the stats here, I'm -123%. So that's a substantial increase to damage when this is working. So I believe the chess piece is nearby. So how often is the mercenary actually nearby is what I question about this build. Sometimes it's clear that it is, and other times I'm not so sure. So while this is incredibly powerful when it works, I'm not sure that it always actually works that well. And you're giving up, again, a lot to... There's a lot of other things you could do with your mercenary if you weren't running a setup like this. So I'm not entirely convinced, at least the way I'm doing things. I'm also using Perquill's Toe here, which makes lightning damage, damage lucky, and lightning has a very wide variance in its damage, so this is a pretty good boost to damage as well. When it's working, which we don't really know how often it's actually working, because how often is the mercenary actually nearby to what your golems are fighting? Sometimes, I guess. Using Victorious Charity, which gives nearby allies power charges and frenzy charges, and this works okay. You'll rarely be at maximum charges on your golems, but they do get some, and it's a pretty big boost to damage, so this is a pretty decent way to go. according to path building, each golem is doing around 100 DPS with its default attack. That's not the only thing it does, so I don't know exactly how to calculate what the full DPS would be, but it's probably something more than that. With 12 of them doing 100k, okay, well, theoretically, that's a bunch of damage. Does it feel like a bunch of damage? Sometimes. And that's why I kind of question how well this Doriani setup really works. But you'll see what it looks like in the map. It's not a fast build. It's slow, in fact. But I built this one really defensively, so it's pretty tanky here. Using the Dawnbreaker shield, which converts damage. This works pretty well. Good amount of armor on here, good block chance, so pretty good defensive choice. It may or may not be the best option for this build, but it's working pretty well for me. I've got Tempest Shield in here somewhere. Well, anyways, I've got Tempest Shield in one of my gem links. There we are. 21, and then I get +2 from the Dark Seer, so that gives me a bunch of spell block, which I generally find to be much more valuable than attack block. So I try to optimize that if I can't cap out both. Also got the Brass Dome body armor here, which is a pretty good defensive choice, sort of an obvious one. Again, is it the best one? I'm not exactly sure, but it's very high armor, and we're running a stone golem here, which is increasing global defenses 20%, but with the ascendancy choice and with the golem commander wheel on the passive tree, it's around 60% increased defenses, and then you can also use a fortress rune graph to get another 40%. So you have a very significant boost to global defenses. So high armor, like on the body and in the shield, really get amplified a great deal by the buffs from the golem and the rune graph. So seems like a pretty good choice. I linked this myself using tainted fusings, which I've never done before, but if you haven't, it's a great way to 6-link an item. It was incredibly easy. On the crafting bench, I started off with creating the sockets first, because I have 4 off colors. So once I had the sockets that were correct, I 4-linked it on the bench. So I think that's a certain number of fusings, and then you need some Vol orbs as well to use that option. And then the tainting fusing, when you apply it, will either take away a link or add a link. So the first tainted fusing took my 4-link and made it a 3-link. Okay, not good. Put it back on the bench, turned it into a 4-link again. Second tainted fusing made it a 5-link. Third tainting fusing made it a 6-link. It's probably luckier than average, but compared to using regular fusings on a non-corrupted body armor, it's ridiculously easier and cheaper. So I bought for 40 chaos, I bought this base, socketed with how many ever jeweler orbs I needed, which I had already, collected from loot in the game. And then the tainted fusings, which I had also happened to loot from the game if you needed to buy them. It really wouldn't be that expensive, and now to buy this armor 6-linked like this is around 5 divines, so I could sell it at a profit if I decide to not use it anymore, but it was an extremely cheap way to make pretty decent piece of armor. The rest of my gear is really nothing special. I just essence craft it, or I happen to have it on hand from previous characters. The flasks, granite, consecrated ground, quartz for phasing, really important in this build. You really want to be able to just walk through the mobs. Otherwise, you can get stuck pretty easily. It's pretty tanky, so it's not very dangerous, but phasing definitely helps. And then, of course, Quicksilver. And die bleeding with instant heal. So that's what the setup looks like. Passive tree. Take a lot of the typical minion stuff. Main minion wheel over here. Attack and cast speed. Minion life. Grave Pact for accuracy down here. And additional damage. I've got Ravenous Horde for the onslaught. Attack and cast speed. I have a medium cluster so far that has renewal for the double damage. That's pretty significant. Boosted damage. Also got one with bodyguards just because that's what was on trade. I don't know if I'll use this if I wanted to continue to develop this or not. Got the Golem Commander wheel, which increased buff effect and extra Golem. That goes along with the Ascendancy, lead to the Primordial, extra Golems, extra buff effect, and crucially the immune to elemental damage, and they get resummoned if they get killed. For what I've been doing, I never see them get killed. I have plenty of tankiness built into these golems at this point, so survivability is really not a concern. I had the chaos resistance here for golems before, and thus far seems completely unnecessary. I am not even sure if this physical damage reduction for them is necessary. I may try specking out of that and see what their survivability looks like. For me, I'm using spell block, so I take the spell block here, spell block wheel here. Got an extra endurance charge here. I've got the golem jewels. Having your golems be aggressive is a necessity. So you can do that with this jewel. You can use Feeding Frenzy in your link, or there are some items that have the aggressive tag on them. Without this, I would say it's almost unplayable. I guess you could put like a Predator support link in your golems, and that way you could direct them to attack targets. But the aggressive tag is really the way to go, in my opinion. And of course, you're going to get this gem anyways. Jewel. Got the Anima Stone here. And it's my... I don't have the right... I should have one more Primordial Jewel. I think I took it out for the blind for now. Anyways, so the other item here is the Timeless Jewel. Elegant Hubris with Caspero is pretty common for minion builds. Allows you to get Supreme Ostentation, which means that you don't have to worry about attribute requirements. It's almost always a headache with minion builds. You're almost always struggling to get dexterity, and sometimes both dexterity and strength. So you have to get high stat items or take points on the tree, and that just never really feels that great to have to sacrifice affixes or passive tree skills points for attributes. So this just takes that away. And it converts some of our nodes into some pretty helpful things. Slumlord, a lot of minion builds will use this. 80% increased damage. And I've got another one here. It's possible to get a Timeless Jewel that has 3 Slumlords, maybe even in some positions 4, I'm not sure about that. But they're sought after and they're quite expensive. This was 1 Divine, and 3 Slumlord Timeless Jewel is going to be 15, 20, or more if they have other beneficial nodes in it as well. You can use Path of Building to find a jewel that works for you and the position that you're putting it in, to look for the mods you're looking for. It's kind of tricky to work with, kind of a finicky tool. If you do a search for how to use that timeless jewel calculator in Path of Building, there's a couple of good guides for it that will show you how it actually works. Nice note I got here was gain an endurance charge every second you've been hit recently. Being hit includes blocking damage. A block is counted as a hit, so even if I'm blocking damage, I'm still accumulating endurance charges, which helps for your physical damage reduction, which is difficult to acquire. And then my last note here, increased damage per endurance charge. It doesn't say for minions, so it doesn't work for minions. This isn't doing anything useful, but I had to pass through that, or maybe there's another way I could have done it, but that's what I took. Just sort of a dead node there. You can look around. The other notables have some interesting things on them when you use a timeless jewel. So avoid being shocked. Spell damage, more spell damage. So depending on your build, these can be extremely powerful nodes. The trick is finding a timeless jewel that works well for you in your application. Anyways, enough said about that. So that's the build. Let's see what it looks like in a map. So this is a kind of Alkengo situation, tier 16, toxic sore. I'll show you what it looks like trying to fight the boss. Just doing a simple map. I'm gonna turn off that even. And pretty much you walk and you wait. You can stand around the mobs pretty safely too. We do have taunt, so mobs aren't that interested in you generally. Of course you can get killed, but pretty tanky character with good block, lots of armor. Yeah, I took a tiny little bit of damage there, but this chest piece, you don't take any damage from extra damage from critical hits, so you can see like I'm not taking any huge hits. I'll just stand there in the mobs and, you know, pretty much I'm okay. Let's go find the boss. See how bad this goes. And pretty much, again, walk and wait. You can see the damage tickling down. Like I said, it's not fast, but it's safe and it's pretty effective. It's a low-key build. Let's see. I've got my Arcanist brand. Could use that to increase the damage a little bit. It's got Crackling Lance in there so that I'm shocking and picking up the additional damage from the Ascendancy. But you really don't even need to do it.
Just what I needed.
Alright, try fighting this guy just to see what it looks like.
Best me or serve me.
I'll just stand here and see what happens.
Crack the whip.
Yep. So, damage isn't super high,
The strong take what they
but
want. So go ahead.
it's okay. Can build more damage here. I was a little surprised. I thought it'd have a bit more damage going on. And if I optimized it further, if I had better cluster jewels, definitely increase it. Not, I don't think dramatically more so. I'm probably giving up a lot by being this tanky, but I kind of like it that way. So you can see I haven't picked up any power or frenzy charges, and I don't see them any on my my golems either. So that shield on the merc, if the merc's killing, should be contributing charges, but you know it barely happens. So it's mainly the minions, and maybe this merc really isn't very good. Haven't given it a weapon or anything, so it could definitely be better. But the way it is, it's I don't know how much it's contributing. Probably with the boss, when you're just standing there and the merc probably gets closer to what you're actually fighting. The Doriani's probably does kick in, but is it always working? I'm not so sure. So that's built for now. I wanted to do a recording at this point because it's about as far as I want to take it with the maximum golem approach. I want to try something quite different and actually closer to my original intent with it, now that I've tried this out. It's fun this way. It's okay. I would call it okay. And you could see it in a tier 16 there. I could probably run a T17, but you know it'd be slow, and a T17 is definitely going to kill you more because you can't really be standing around in tier 17s too much, depending on the mods. So that would just be kind of annoying. The so-called 16.5 are probably be okay as well, but it's not a spectacular build. It's just kind of a fun, low-key one. And golems are cool. I like it. All right. See you next time.